Rev up your engines!
Well, there's a new automaker selling cars in the United States. Vinfast, you might heard of them, is a Vietnamese company. They're soon going to open showrooms in California, closer to Vietnam, right? Don't have to ship them as far. Now, their whole theory is they're only going to do online sales, and they won't have any official dealerships. Now, they're going to have service centers, so that's going to be kind of a stinker, but they're only going to sell electric vehicles here in the United States. This company sells a Pininfarina Italian-style GM V8 powered President SUV. But they'll probably never sell that in the United States because all that is a rebadged BMW X5. And I'm sure BMW wouldn't let them sell them over here. And of course, it's going to be a smaller SUV. If you're in California, they say they're going to be selling these VinFasts in a short period of time, but they'll all be electric cars. I mean, there's going to be so many electric car companies trying to sell cars. Nobody's going to know which one to buy. Are they going to be available? Teslas themselves have a horrendous record of you can't get your car fixed, and they have a few dealerships. Imagine a company like VinFast. Right off the bat, we're not going to have any dealerships. We're going to sell them online. Well, let's hope they're really cheap, because like many things you buy online, when they break, you're just stuck with a broken thing and you have no recourse to have anything done for it. And realize, electric cars aren't covered under the same type of warranties the gasoline cars on. They don't pollute. They don't have any of this OBD2 stuff where you can diagnose it, so it'll be another world. But there's another one jumping in the electric car market here in the United States. VinFast from Vietnam. Beal says, my engine's overheating and I hear a hissing sound. I replaced the thermostat, bled the radiator, and cleaned it. Normally it runs fine, but when I'm in traffic, it gets hot and the gauge goes up. Now I turn the engine off, there's a hissing sound. What could be the fault? You always want to pressure test the system, see if it's leaking somewhere, but you hear a hissing sound. First, change the radiator cap when it's cold so you don't burn yourself. The radiator cap holds pressure in. If it's leaking, you'll hear a hissing sound as the pressure leaks up. It can be that simple, but any leak is going to make a hissing sound. Hoses, water pump leaking, it's going to hiss because the pressure's got to come out somewhere. And if there's a leak, it's going to hiss out of the leak. And of course, once it overheats, you created steam, and then you'll hear hissing as the steam hisses out. If it's water, it'll squirt out water. But once the water's gone, it'll be steam, and the steam will hiss. So check for leaks first. What the heck? Radiator caps don't cost much, so replace the radiator cap. 92 says they got an 06 Corolla for $4,000 from an elderly couple. I think the power steering is stiff. The fluid's fine. Is this something I should be aware of, or is it normal for a Corolla? No, it's not normal. Your power steering is probably binding. They do get dirty inside. Watch my video, How to Fix Binding Power Steering Scotty. Watch that on YouTube. You'll see how you can add some chemicals, drive it around, flush it out, put new fluid in, and you'll find the binding will probably go away. I've done that to cars I owned for customers that I had. They bind because they get a little dirt and corrosion inside the power steering rack. When you turn to one side, a valve opens to send pressure to that side to give you power steering. When you turn it the other way, the valve opens on the other side. If those valves get clogged up and sticky, you get binding power steering, especially first thing in the morning. If you flush the system out and put new fluid in, often that goes away and you don't have to buy a new power steering rack. But that's typical of that age. That's what, a 16-year-old Corolla. They will get dirty inside and the flushing will fix it. General Lee 22 says, I got a 2011 Nissan Pathfinder. It jerks when I let off the accelerator. How can I diagnose it? There are no codes. Well, you can ask me, and you just did. And I can just about guarantee you, because I've done zillions of those, is your transmission is starting to go out. That's what happens with those Nissans. You said you got 280,000 kilometers, so that's like, what, 160,000 miles? It's pretty much the lifespan of the automatic transmissions in those things. When you take your foot off the gas and there's back pressure, they'll often jerk. And that's how those transmissions wear out first. Now, I've had customers drive those things sometimes years further on, and they still do the jerking when you decelerate, but as long as they shift okay when you're driving normally, you could live with it. It's not going to hurt anything, you know? You want to check the universal joints, make sure they're not worn. Sometimes they can do that if they're worn a little bit, but if the U-joints are worn when you take off, it'll clunk too, because it stretches it. When you take off, you do a clunking. Odds are your training's just starting to go out, and that's typical on a Pathfinder. It's about the lifespan of those things. Pete Gutierrez says, Scotty, I got a 94 Corolla. What critical spare parts should we keep in the trunk? I've had it for 2 decades. Now, what should I have so I don't get stuck if I go on long drives? First thing, fuel pumps eventually do wear out. That thing's 94, right? Buy one, put it in the trunk. You just take the back seat out, and there's an access panel. You take the screws out, pop it open. You get the pump that way. You don't have to drop the tank, so you could do that on the road easily. Of course, make sure you got a screwdriver and a set of metric sockets to do the work with, too, and a pair of pliers. Now, I would take spare fan belts always. Hey, who knows? I probably, with that age, if you haven't changed the alternator, I'd put a spare alternator in the trunk just in case. What the heck? Stuck in the middle of nowhere. You got a spare one, pop it on. Doesn't take 15 minutes to change it on them. The alternator's on the top. It's real easy to get to. That'd be the main spare parts that I'd bring. The other stuff is pretty reliable, you know. If it burns a little oil, bring a jug of oil and stuff like that. But that's all you really need. Those are the only two things that are hard to find that might break when you're going down the road. Other than, you know, you might have little brake fluid and stuff like that. Top stuff off. Those would be the main parts you'd need. The Duck says, I got a 94 G30 extended 1 ton. There's water in my fuse box. I'm having all kinds of problems, and I saw my fuse panel is all wet. I think it's coming from a spot under where all the lights hook up under the firewall. First thing you want to do is you want to seal that hole in the firewall where the wires go through. Get some silicone, seal it so it's sealed and no more water comes in. Now, you want to pray it hasn't done any permanent damage. What you would do, if you got water in your fuse box, you want to take all the fuses out, get some spray electrical cleaner, clean it all. Then make sure the fuses are clean or just buy new ones, put new fuses in, get a hairdryer, dry everything, and pray it hasn't destroyed anything else. Because water and electricity don't go together, and after a while sitting there, they can corrode everything. Pray like mad it hasn't got the computers all wet. They'll really start shorting out and doing all kinds of crazy things. In that case, you just have to buy another computer. At least it's a 94, so it's an old one, and those old computers aren't that expensive. They're only a few $100. They're not like the new ones that cost thousands. Those old ones are a lot simpler, but it could be as simple as drying it, seal the leaks, take it apart, clean it with spray electrical cleaner, put new fuses in, and then see if it fixes everything, because yes, that could cause all those problems and more. Delano says, why do people buy Tesla? I know they're supposed to be friendly, but the hassle of an electric vehicle is endless. Why are people buying these things? People buy all kinds of things. The biggest selling minivan in the United States are the Chrysler Dodge minivans, right? They're rolling piles of junk, but people buy them. There's no accounting for what people will buy. And of course, with new technology, you know, people, oh, I want an electric car, I want this or that. The real question is going to be, are the massive amount of Americans going to buy them? And my answer is probably not. Even in California, they said that 20% of the people who bought electric cars are going to get rid of them, said they'll never buy another one. And that's in a place that's electrically friendly with a lot of charging stations. Going to Midwest, I don't think people are going to try them very much. They got long distances to go, no place to recharge them. I doubt if it's ever going to become mainstream for quite some time. But, you know, people will buy anything. They can be suckered into buying all kinds of things, expensive stuff, and it's, oh, wow, I got a Tesla. They are fast. If you're a speed demon, I could see why you'd buy one. They're insanely fast. They have 1,000 horsepower ones that are just absolute screamers. There's no arguing that. Electric cars have motors that put out instant power. They're insane to drive. And even the horsepower rating at that is not telling you the truth, because it's got a lot more pickup than a 1,000 horsepower gasoline engine, because it's instant. It doesn't have to rev up to 4,000 RPMs to get 1,000 horsepower. As soon as you turn it on, up it goes. That's why people are buying them, but I don't think they'll ever be mass popularity with people. They cost too much. You can't drive that far in them. You know, over time, who knows? The things will probably all fall apart. They're already breaking as it is, and people can't get them fixed. After they get to be aged over and they start falling apart and they cost so much money, people will probably walk away from them in droves. Matthew Yim says, what brand has the best auto insurance? I live in Virginia and about to get my license within a few days. Well, I'm not a fan of any insurance company. They just want to take as much money as they can out of you and then pay out as little as possible if they have to. Price around, basically. That's the only thing I can say. There's lots of apps you can put in to see the best price you can get. You know, they're all multinational corporations, so they don't care about you. They spend more money, I think, running ads than they do paying off when people get in accidents or stuff, so they got a stilted operating procedure going anyways. Take all the driver ed courses you can so you can get a better discount, but you're getting your license, so I'm assuming you're young. They're going to stick it to you, and they're just insurance adjusters. So they go by mathematical formulas, and they see that mathematically the teenage boys smash them up a lot more than the teenage girls, so they charge a lot more for insurance. So you're pretty much screwed. If you can get on your parents' policy, that's the best way to do it, but maybe your parents don't want their rates to go up, so I don't know. You're going to have to ask them about that one. Ed says, what can I do to fix a catalytic converter that has a sulfur smell? First, make sure it's your catalytic converter, because there's only two things in your car that can make sulfur smell. One is the catalytic converter that's burning sulfur. The other is your battery is sulfating out, because they have acid inside it and the sulfur can bubble out and it'd be your battery that's stinking and not your car. But if you go to the tailpipe and take a sniff and it's coming out sulfur smell, you're getting bad gasoline that has a high amount of sulfur in it. There is a product out there called Catalytic for cleaning your catalytic converters. Give that a try. You can often clean it out and then buy your gas somewhere else, because wherever you're buying the gas, it has too much sulfur in it and it will mess up your catalytic converter. But the Catalytic works pretty good to get rid of it. Definitely go buy your gas somewhere else. If you're going to the corner station, go to another corner station, because they got bad gas if you smell sulfur. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.